Hey everybody, so this is just another assembly video. I've got some of these listed on my Etsy, so I kind of need to have assembly instructions. This actually is my network attached storage device that I use. This isn't the only one I use. I use this for things related to my Raspberry Pis and whatnot. It's got the X873 board on the bottom, and I've got a NVMe drive on it, a little 2280. I'm going to assemble this into this white case, and I'm going to do a few things along the way. If you've seen these videos before, and you're not assembling one of these, you haven't just bought one of these for me, then this is going to be a totally boring video, so don't bother watching it. But along the way, I'm going to talk about a few things about the design, and I'm going to be putting a few different parts on this sort of as it goes together. So we're going to be tearing this thing all the way down, so you'll get to see kind of all the little internal bits of it. In this video, the one I'm going to be doing is this white one that has the frame. It's acrylic on all three sides, this side and this side and this side, and it's got the frame around the acrylic. I also sell these cases like this with the frameless acrylic. I actually prefer this because this can have a little bit of fitment issue. That's why I'm using this one for myself and not trying to sell it. It has this like gap along the side that I can't really do. This brown one is exactly the same, and I have the brown one listed, and it's great. Everything fits together as it should. This case would be really fun with some Noctua fans in it. I am working on a Noctua case right now. This is going to be a case I'm going to list here shortly. I'm just kind of updating it to the latest specs, and I need to trim these wires back and put the right kind of terminals on them. So anyway, this video works for all of these that all have the screen. Also, there's this kind that doesn't have the screen. This has been listed for a while. I'm really disappointed this hasn't sold. This is like one of the coolest cases I think I've made in a while. It's really good prints, and the way this like orange red lights up along the side, I mean, I know it's a bit much, but anyway, this also applies to this. And the main difference between this and the previous videos is that we have the screen here to deal with during the assembly, and all of this attaches to the inside of the case. Previously, I did these cases where the duct part screwed to the board and the ice tower as part of assembly, but the problem with that is that I have this to ship then, this like rattling around piece inside. So that means I have to stuff this with packing material. Nobody likes packing material. So I redesigned all of this so that all of these pieces, instead of attaching to the ice tower during assembly, they're attached to the side of the case so that it all ships as one piece like this. That means when you assemble it, you kind of have to take this loose to like kind of get the pie into it. So we'll see all that as we go through it. We're going to do this white one, and I'm also going to update it to the latest spec of the internal duct. I've gone through a few different versions of this. We'll see it as we go. So the first step here is going to be to just take this thing all the way apart. This has clear acrylic sides on it, but it's got the protective film on it still. I try to ship them with the protective film on when I can, but also sometimes I don't have a picture of what that particular stuff looks like. So I have to take them apart for, the ones that have the colorful sides. Unfortunately, I have to ship them without the protective film so that I can take a picture of what it actually looks like. And I don't really make enough of these. Like all of these that I've made are kind of all one of a kind at this point because there's so many different color options for the acrylic and color options for the printed parts and whatnot. This particular one has the white PC filter material. I like the way this one looks with all the white, but this one back here, this really bright one, it has red filters. I don't know if you can see that there's filter material there with the fan and it's red. I wish they made red LED fans in 5 volt, but those seem to be impossible to find. I need to contact my contact at GeekPi and tell them to start making that. So we've got this all pretty much taken apart now. All this acrylic, we should start peeling the film off of. Maybe we'll do that as part of the assembly. This is how I print these parts. They print on this raft so that, because there's such a small surface area that would touch the printer, so I'm gonna snap this off. A little piece of support material in it. That wouldn't be a bad idea to take my file and kind of make sure this is all flat and smooth. And then this is a little strain relief piece. So that's got to come off. And I'm going to take my tap and thread these holes. This is a strain relief for the cables. It's kind of a new thing. I was making it like this. I made several cases with it like this, but it turns out that these screw heads run into the side of the heatsink here, so I need to update this one to the latest specifications. So I need to take this off. And I need to swap all of this over to the side that I have are printed with the hole for the M.2 board jumper. Which is right there. I need to swap that all over to that. Yep. Alright, I'm also going to swap this fan out for a blue one while I'm in here. I probably didn't even need to take this apart. Well, I did for the screen. Just turning a lot of screws. These screens, I've known they've been a thing. I mean, you know, I've been aware of them for a long time, but I never really knew, like, I just needed to educate myself on them. So now I have done that. So this is the little screen carrier here. It attaches, the screen attaches with these two top screws. Something to be aware of with these screens is right here along the side there are the labels for what all of the different pins are. And those labels are not always the same. So when we get to the point of hooking up the wires, you want to be aware of what pin is what, and then it'll correspond to a color. Like this one, the first one there, well, you can see that these two, the voltage and the ground, the first two pins on the left are reversed. This one has VCC and then ground, and this one has ground and then VCC. So, and each one corresponds to a color. So on this one, ground is going to be red. Well, that's a little weird. And VCC is going to be brown. And SCL is going to be black. And SDA is going to be white. So, so I'm going to put this into the piece with the and those bottom two screws, if you ever have to take those loose, don't over tighten them. They don't need to be incredibly tight, and they only thread into a little bit of meat there, so they would tend to get stripped. I'm going to pull the protective film off this, since this is going to be my permanent network attached storage device. All right, so now we're ready to put the fan and the duct on. This fan I know is a blue LED fan because it has the blue sticker. The color changing fans have the red, green, blue sticker on there. You can see the difference between them. This is going to drop through here like so. We want the wires coming down, as we look at it from the front, coming down diagonally like this. Makes them as short as or makes them as long as possible going towards the pins we need to plug them into. And then it's helpful to take one of these long screws, get it started through the duct and the fan. And then hold all of this up here like that. And the other one of these long screws. This one is hard to get started. Previously I was doing the ducts like this, where they have this tube and you can just drop it into that tube, but that blocks a good amount of the airflow space here. So the new versions don't have that tube. You just have to drop it into the hole that's like inside there. So the easiest way to do this, if you ever have to do it, if you buy these from me, all this part comes pre-assembled, so you don't have to worry about this too much. But that's the easiest way to get it dropped in there, is with a pair of pliers. Like so. And again, it doesn't need to be too tight. You can do 4 screws on that if you want to, but I think it's kind of overkill. So I'm holding this down so that the wires go into this little recess here. And then this piece goes over the top of it. And then I probably don't have the right length of screws here. I use the shorter screws. They look like that. They're 6 millimeters long instead of 8. It just blocks a little less of the airflow. And as you tighten it, kind of pull the wires tight, but don't pull them so much that they start pulling off there. And again, all of this will come pre-assembled if you buy it from me. So now this thing prevents the wires from accidentally getting unplugged when you're kind of assembling the rest of the case. And it also helps route the wires kind of down under the heat sink, which we'll see as this goes forward. So I've gotten these screws kind of tight, probably tighter than they need to be, because this is the part, if you were assembling this yourself, if you bought it and are just installing, I guess, more than assembling it, just installing your Pi into it, you need to loosen these screws enough that this can kind of rattle like that, and that may even not be enough. So there are these little triangular-ish shaped things with a little slot in it. We want to get this edge of the Pi, this edge of the PCB, into that slot, and of course the ports need to line up with their respective holes. And we want to not pinch any of these wires as we do this. We want to kind of keep that like that. And this wire, we want to go under the heat sink like that. So this is all there it goes. So there it is. That's how it should be. And once we get it in place like that, we'll tighten these screws down, and then it can't fall out of place as we assemble the rest of the case. This will kind of hold it all together. Like so. Yeah. Pull this wire. I like to get the wire totally up in there between the aluminum heat block at the bottom there. So this is the heat block down here, this piece of aluminum right there. And there's a gap between it and the bottom of the heatsink. I like to get this wire tucked into that gap as much as I can, about like that. It kind of holds it all in place pretty well. This fan, you may find it's better to have the fan so the wires come out over here. In fact, I might just go ahead and do that. I guess I also want to make sure this is a blue fan I've got on the heatsink. I have a blue fan here, so I'm going to rotate this like this. If you don't have the screen, it's fine to do it the other way. It's kind of preferred to do it the other way, but you end up with so many wires coming together here that you need a little bit of extra length on them, so that's how we're going to do it. All of this other stuff was just assembled the way the ice tower instructions tell you to assemble it. So now we're going to start plugging these wires all in. So I've got a little cheat sheet I drew here. So on this particular screen, because ground is the first one, that goes to pin 14. So red is going to go to pin 14. That is the 7th pin on the outside. So we're going to count over 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it goes right there. We should have 6 pins showing right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the second one is VCC, so that goes to pin 1. That's kind of hard to reach. The third pin, which is black here, that goes to pin 5, which is the third pin on the inside. The inside is 1, 3, 5. So the next one is S. The one that goes to pin 3 is the fourth one over here. So that's the white one. So that goes next to it on the inside, about like that. And then this brown one goes to, let's double check it. Brown is VCC. So that goes to the first pin. That goes to number 1. That's a 3-volt pin right there. So that is the screen all connected. And now these fans need to connect. So I am going to plug in the black one right here on the very last pin on the inside. Except I've totally pinched that in place. And then this one goes to one of the 2 5-volt. The first 2 on the outside are 5 volts, so it goes to whichever one you can reach it to, and it happens to be the second one in this case. So this one goes to the third pin on the outside. That is a ground, and the power, the red power from this one, goes to the first pin. That's a 5-volt power also. So that's all the wiring done. So now we need to start assembling these sides, which is going to involve peeling off this. I'll probably not run the video while I'm doing this because... And on this one, I'm going to have to take that filter loose to get the film out from behind it. So go ahead and pause the video. You don't need it. You know how to peel. So that's all the acrylic peeled. Set that stuff aside, but we need this one for going in. If you've got one of these that has the, yeah, it goes like that. If you have one of these that has the frame around it, for getting it into place, the acrylic, there is this little ledge here that kind of holds the little recess around the ports in place. This piece, if that little tab wasn't there, would pull out. So you need to get it hooked into that first, and then it kind of drops in the rest, like so. And so this goes on here, and there are little round collars that pop into the little holes there. And these little, there's like a half moon shaped one here, a little straight tab, another little half moon shaped one there. Those kind of reach into this side of the case and hold the acrylic in place to prevent it from rattling. Alright, and now we need the SD card side, which is the same deal. It's got the same little half round tabs and whatnot. This also has a slot here and a slot here that grab the edge of the Pi's PCB. And additionally, there are these little triangle tabs that kind of hit either side of the display. It's not popping into place. There it goes. So when you finally get this, it kind of pops into place. Struggled with it a little bit at first, but kind of pops into place, and then once that pops into place, those holes will line up there. while since I've assembled one of these with the frame around it. All right, so now we're ready to get that out of the way. Acrylic part slides in at the top, and sometimes it'll kind of snap as it gets like kind of snap into this rail. There's a rail along this side that it fits into, and if it doesn't seem like it wants to go, I've snipped the corners on this so they're not sharp corners. You can do that with pliers like this. You know, you're just trying to take just a millimeter off the corners, or you could do it with fingernail trimmers. Anything like that. A fingernail file, you could file the corner. So that helps it kind of get in there, but it will kind of pop into place. And then that kind of prevents it from rattling. Kind of the looser the fit is, the more tendency it's going to have to rattle. So that goes into place like so. And now this side, I prefer to put if you've got the logo, I prefer to put it to the inside. I only had a few of these with the logo on them. So there is, on this side, it's not square. It is it's square in overall profile, but the insides are not perfectly square. So there's this little tab right here. It's kind of the same thing as the tab that's around by the ports. So it needs to snap in like that. It goes at the top, that little piece does. So that gets in like that. And then this can be a little bit annoying. Sometimes it pops out of place as you're getting everything into place. So that goes like that. I appear to be out of screws. Oh, look, here's some screws. All right. There it is. We need to put this in if we're going to boot from the SSD. Nice. We got to put together right. These screens should come on shortly. Yeah, I really like that. I like the blue. There it is. There's the screen. It's not connected to the Ethernet cable, so it's not going to tell us the IP address. But it does work even booting from the M.2. It does work with the, you can read that on the screen. It's disk 80 of 228 gigabytes. This is a 256 or something gigabyte M.2, the NVMe, so it tells me 37%. Also, this is a 1 gigabyte RAM Pi and Pi 4. It works fine for what I use it for literally all it is a Samba share, where I can share my files that I'm working with, my CAD files, between my desktop and my laptop, so I don't share anything else on this. So you can see it's 140 of 856 megabytes of RAM, 17%. CPU load is at 1.34%. So anyway, there are other things you can do with that screen, but I think that's the most useful, giving yourself it's helpful for me because I can glance at it and see how much drive space I have, and also the IP address in case my router decides to flake out and assign it a different IP address or something. So anyway, that's the basic assembly of it. I'm going to do an addendum for programming the screen. Unfortunately, the tutorial for programming the screen that I listed under the last video where I talked about these screens has since, as an Adafruit link, and it's since not worked. So I need to find a new tutorial to link to. So anyway, that's the assembly process. Thanks for watching. I'll see you later.